Yep. So
Yeah, so.
Give me
there we
one
go.
second.
Well, I mean, as you're wearing a mask, really, I guess I should have raised my scarf. Right?
Here we are in Maskland.
Okay.
Absolutely. Maybe you have to
Look
take
at
it off.
this. Look at this. Edward, isn't this something that you wrote lyrics about one time?
Too many lyrics.
Man.
Can you imagine how incredible it is to like open Facebook every day and see someone quoting your lyrics back at you? It kind of like gets a bit sort of disturbing.
Oh man, I gotta derobe here to get busy with you. Holy smokes, my glasses are all fogged up, everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's that. How many of you people out there wear these a mask, and then if you wear glasses on top, your glasses are just fogged up, and then you can't see where you're going.
I still haven't worn them off yet. I mean, they're hard to get. Sort of basically you have to order them to Amazon for exorbitant prices. And when they turn up, it's like an elastic band or something. It's not very effective.
Yeah, and then the ones that they tell you that you're wearing, they say provide a zero affectability to the virus.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just basically staying in. We go to a walk around. We're lucky enough to live right by a park. So every day we take a walk around the park just for a bit of exercise. But that's it, really.
Yeah, same here. I think we've been in what 23 days now,
24.
24,
Whoa.
and
Yeah.
I don't know. It's definitely unusual. I'm hearing
Yeah.
it is getting a little bit somewhat easier. Can everyone hear us
Well,
out okay out there? Give us a thumbs up. Miss
you can
Rihanna,
see.
Miss Rihanna is doing
Uh,
the co-hosting here today. Thank you, Rihanna.
the oddest thing here is the air. When we started noticing it about 10 years ago, you walk out and basically the air is so much cleaner.
Man,
Uh, is there technical issues there, I reckon?
I'm. It's just phasing a little bit, so it's harder for me to understand you. But I think maybe just move your position around and see if it gets any better.
Is that a little better?
Yeah, that is actually. It's not as blown out.
Ah, that's good. I mean, nothing wrong with a bit of phasing. I like a bit of phasing, but yeah, I guess intelligibility could create problems.
So, how are you coping with being at home all the time? Are you just making another album?
Well, I actually try and find a proper balance. It's not a personal challenge right now. I just basically use the iPad a lot and just see what comes together. And yeah, writing lots of lyrics. I'm not writing anything lyrics about disasters or yeah, viruses or it's like happy lyrics. Well, kind of.
Yeah. Did you
That's
ever
how.
did you ever specifically write a song about a virus killing the world?
That's interesting. Probably, but I can't remember it. Yeah, something the carrier. Yeah, there was actually a song called the carrier. There's a quite a few that refer to it as the five kind of dreading it a bit now, to be honest. But, you know,
The Carrier. What's that from?
I think it's on, it might be on Brother Others, or it's around that time, it's on the solo album. It's a long time ago. But sometimes you like you sort of regret.
Well, I think people should investigate that for sure. Get into the details because you've always been somewhat. I don't know. We called you prophetic. You were, you were giving prophecies a long time ago.
Yeah, no, it's something like But, you know, that's a joke. You know, I mean, I'm not serious. You know, I don't want to be one of these guys with build like lazy stars, you know, sort of like I have to in the future, you know. You know, it's just like, in a way, what I wrote was a little bit obvious, you know. All you have to do is look at how things are.
Yeah. Man, I wish we had less phasing on your audio. It's really difficult to understand with the fading. Is there anybody else having a difficulty out there? Edward, I'm going to tell a story here.
Okay.
Everyone always asks me, how did you meet Edward? How did you ever come across Edward? And it started off on this album, the Elephant Table album.
Wow.
And then on the inside, it actually gave your address. Here it is here.
Oh, Eastern Avenue, Ilford, Essex.
That's right, top flat 737, Eastern Avenue, Ilford, Essex.
That's right.
So
I can tell you stories about that address, actually. They were very, very interesting.
Any in particular?
Okay. Now, this is all true, what I'm about to tell you. Basically, it's where I live. Roland, who played bass with the Doctor, lived. Barry lived there for quite a while, played guitar. Pat Birmingham lived downstairs, he ran the label. And Sally, who was also part of the Pink Dots. And one little strange phase, sort of like people were getting into playing with Ouija boards.
Oh,
no. I thought, this is where it gets weird, I tell you. They write letters on pieces of paper. And now I'd actually tried this when I was like many years before. I didn't want anything to do with it. But there was one day when the guys were playing like this kind of Ouija upstairs. And then I think it was Barry came downstairs looking really kind of like a bit frustrated. I said, well, what's going on? I said, the glass went out of control and the letter flew everywhere.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and there's like I'm just making some tea, sort of like, sort of like what I sort of like gather them together. And basically that's what happened. And Barry disappeared upstairs again. And then a few minutes later, he came down again looking a bit white. And what it was I think it was the letter D. They could not find the letter D. Oh no, it's the letter S, that was it. And it's like they looked under the bed, it's in Sally's room, and they looked under the covers and everywhere, there's no letter S there. So they wrote the new letter S with the fingers on the glass, and the glass went letter S.
Oh no.
That's where they packed it in, but that was the start of the story. From then on, the whole atmosphere for weeks on end changed in that flat. It was like just a regular flat above a shop. And I was getting like strange, I thought they were dreams of a black dog. And Pat, who believed in nothing that he couldn't touch or sort of like smell or hear, was completely skeptical about this guy. He thought I thought, listen, he was nuts. Until he himself experienced the black dog. Things were turned inside out, things like that. It was crazy. And there was one this is the most bizarre incident of the lot concerning the black dog. I was in bed one night having the most horrendous dream. And it's during the black dog time. And I was in the corridor outside my room, up to my waist in mist. And I was like really freaking out about this. And basically, in my dream, I knocked on the door of Barry. Anyway, that was the point where I woke up and I thought, oh, this is too much. I'm going downstairs, going to make some food. As I left my room, Barry opened the door of his room and said, what's the problem? This is a true story. I moved out shortly after that. It was when I went to Holland, but the strangeness went on for quite a while.
Did a black dog ever appear?
Eh?
Did a black dog ever appear in the reel?
It appeared to different people at different times. Always like out of the corner of the eye, never direct.
Right.
You know, when you just do something for a second and it's not there anymore. It was always like that. Okay, every single one of the stories.
Well, you know what? It's really weird that you say that about dreams and stuff because before I met you, I mean, I had been listening to the Pink Dots for probably like about 3 years before I actually met Edward. And I had this dream, really vivid dream one night that I was in this place and you were showing me these handmade crafted items that had been made, and yet I'd never seen a picture of you guys yet. So I had no idea what any of you looked like. And I met this one guy and his face was completely painted with makeup. And I thought, well, they would never do that. I can never imagine the Pink Dots wearing makeup. They just don't seem like a makeup wearing type of band. And then I saw a picture shortly thereafter that was contained in someone's chemical play school that was the first picture that I ever saw of you guys. And in fact, Phil the Silverman, his face was entirely painted silver. And I thought like, oh wow, that is a little strange. And then the more over time that I thought about that dream and the location about where we were in the dream, it became ever more clear that we were at Nils' place, because it was a farm and it was in a a type of wooden structure that I can only equate to something that we later ventured into together. But when I saw that picture, it blew my mind because I thought like, well, it just almost felt like a premonition. And I always used to feel that way with your music, that you were tapping into like another dimension and another side. And one night, I think it was obviously the first time I ever spoke to you. Our mutual friend Debbie Jones, who's now passed away, just decided one night she was going to call you up. And it was about 4:00 in the morning our time, and we just decided, I don't know how she got the number. I guess she looked it up got the address, 737 Eastern Avenue, and got the number, and just dialed it up. Can you control fish?
He wants to.
And hold on, Fisherman's coming into the picture here. And she dialed you up, and just that number of that location, and who should answer but Edward. And before a few seconds was going on, and we heard Debbie speaking, she said, Edward? And Ogre and I looked at each other, and Bill, and we looked at each other, and we were like, no way, she's speaking to Edward? And then she spoke to you for a little while, and then you passed me the phone, and I was so, I couldn't believe if I was going to actually hear your voice on the other end, because it's like one of those things where you have a very specific sound to your voice, where once you hear it, it's like almost lyrical, even when you're speaking to you. And I remember I asked you about this song, the very first thing. It was like this magical question about, there's this song on Chemical Play School 3 and 4 where you talk about passing over. He's here in this room. Yeah. And that song always made a huge impression with me about needing to ask you, did you ever really see that person? And your first answer was, I think it was more philosophical than, you gave me a great answer. I can't remember what it was though, but it was a great way to meet you. And of course you came to Vancouver shortly thereafter that, and I was able to meet you in person. And create a great personal experience between us with those shows that we did. But I always found our meeting to be somewhat magical. It could have come out of a Ouija board as well. What's your memories of all that?
Oh, I mean, there's so much. It's such a strange emotional time for me. These were the first statements in it before. The flat itself was like, you could see inside it, you would have been kind of shocked, especially by my room, which was just a wreck. But it was a very intense time. I was doing a day job, and every hour that I could, I was working on music. Because, every spare moment I could grab, and you basically jammed lots as well. At one point there were even two pink dots groups sort of operating side by side with me and both of them. It was a very intense time, and nothing was ever normal. So there was no normal. In fact, normal kind of life avoided me for probably, always.
I was waiting for that one. I was going to say, what number was that? Oh, yeah, no, it's always evaded me too. Look at this. I don't know if you can see that in there.
Oh, wow. That looks familiar. Hang on, let me just...
How can I get a bit? This is... I guess we can't really get a good picture of it. Here, I'll try and get a picture of it for...
That looks like an original.
So, yeah, we can't really get a good shot of it for the crew out there. But so it's Barry, or Edward, Barry, April, which you never see a picture of April.
You never seen a picture of April? You see a lot of the early
and rolls. So that was the second picture I ever saw of you.
Yeah, it's a fascinating, shadowy, interesting times. What was odd, it took us years really to play properly live as well. We did lots of recording, but I think we're just a little shy about playing on stage. Considering what's happened since then, it seems bizarre.
How many times did you guys play with that original Dots on the Eyes lineup?
Ooh. Basically, maybe 3-4 times. Wasn't much. They were bizarre shows. There was one show in a college. We were booked in there. One of those shows where you don't get paid. So, we turned in there. We turned up. But the college was actually holding a sitting. So there was no audience at all. All the audience was actually sitting in another room protesting about sort of conditions in the university, and we were playing on stage to absolutely no one. There was another show at a C&D festival, basically, it's like against the, like on Bang the Bomb, which we were really into. But before we played, there was like a whole series of speakers, political people, sort of like, giving their views. And there was, just the afternoon went on and on and on. And gradually, as each speaker came, the crowd sort of like melted away a little bit. So I looked at about 150 people there. And by the time we actually got to play, there were like 2. They liked it, I'll say that. But they even danced, I seem to remember, for 2 or 3. It was like a field, an empty field, but for these 2 people. But,
2 good people, though.
We were entertaining, I guess.
I don't. It often makes me wonder how in those days with such pressures and everything upon us, how we were able to actually create music with all the pressures that we were under in those days, and yet we were creating more than probably than so prolific. You guys, always making material despite all the conditions. Finding your cassettes and going through that experience was a true joy, I have to say. You'd have to find lists. It would be very obscure lists from all over the world, and they would have a list. They'd have a cassette tape on it that you'd have to see or you'd have to find. And one day, there was this label called Ding Dong Disc in Holland, and I had written them because they had this tape called Apparition that I wanted to get. And so they wrote me back and they said, "Oh, it just so happens that the Pink Dots are all here right now. I'll have them sign a cassette cover for you." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And so, yeah, they sent me this. Hopefully I can get this to show up here. So it was like your language, greetings, Edward, Phil, Rolls, Barry, Patrick, April. I mean, that's on the back of the tape cover, by the way.
Yeah, the first Dutch tour, he played the whole Dutch tour indeed, with that original lineup. It was interesting, I think, to remember.
I think that's one of my most coveted things. Excuse me. I've had a cup of tea here.
Oh, what? You got a red cup as well.
You have a red cup?
Almost exactly like that.
Yeah, I think red cups are good luck, especially during the crisis.
Indeed. So, how is your daily life right now in Los Angeles? It must be kind of a bit.
I'm kind of proud of like what's going on with the people here. While I'm talking, I'm just going to turn this down a little bit. I'm kind of proud about what's going on here with LA. I've never seen it like this before in my life, so which means the streets are empty and everywhere is closed. I'm kind of thinking that we're doing our best, like doing the lockdown. So I'm hopeful because I even though I see the numbers going absolutely crazy in the U.S., they don't seem to be going too crazy here. So I'll keep my fingers crossed, but the more crowded and densely populated cities are going to be way more of a worry, I think.
Yeah. It's like London. I mean, where we are, it's not so bad. It's a little similar. The streets are pretty empty. It's unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but ironically, we just had the best weather we've had in about a year.
Isn't that just ironic?
In some ways, it really is it's sad. I mean, it's great, but it's sad because you can't really enjoy it. You have to stay in. But yeah, when you do step outside, it's like breathing the air of a new planet almost. It's like it's so clean, and I just can't believe it. It just how quickly it seems that nature is just basically, making this correction in such a rapid. The truth is, it wasn't for the damn virus. It would be great, but the damn virus is hanging there like a storm of Damocles. Well, take that away, we've actually got a really fabulous planet right now. One that's going a little slower. It's all a little cleaner and there's hope for it, but the virus hangs there. Get that away and just kind of like maybe everyone slows down, when it slows down a bit, then the world.
Absolutely, everyone's going to have to rebuild the way they think afterwards, and perhaps we'll end up with a better system after. You'll never look at like dirty counters the same now, or sort of like a restaurant that isn't clean, or you'll always notice these things now, like you would be before you'd be like, give me that mustard and ketchup over there.
Yeah, it changes everything. I mean, I've never washed my hands as much as in these times, you just have to. You have no choice. Even just if I walk outside and I just lean on it, or just support myself on a gatepost or something like that, the awareness is there. I have touched this gatepost. I must wash my hands immediately when I get back inside again, and I must not touch my eyes or my nose or something like that in the meantime. It's strangely, you do get to learn these things.
I'm going to take questions from Patreon people. Please flow some questions. I see some here. I see the question here is, can you guys talk about your favorite moments with Genesis Fjords?
What?
Do you have it? Did you ever spend time with Genesis Fjords?
I never met Genesis. We spoke to each other on Facebook here and there, but I never got to meet Genesis. I feel very sad about that.
Yeah,
he's a life changer. I know the stories, the negative ones, but he really changed my life. He was one of the biggest reasons why I started making music, because of what him and Chris and Posey and Sleazy did all together. They were so important to me. They showed that you can do this. Doesn't matter if you've got no money, doesn't matter if you've never played a thing in your life, you can do this. And it convinced me. And, it's huge to me. So, I was really sad when he passed away. I know, I guess everybody saw it coming, but in some ways you don't see it coming as well. It still shocks me more than I've ever believed.
Yeah, it shocks me. I mean, even though we could see it coming, it's always been a shock. It's funny. Are you guys from? No, I guess Jen was up from around Manchester.
Sorry, it's Black Birmingham. That's where we're from originally. It's a fair way from here, but Birmingham were actually based quite close to where I live now.
I have a funny story about Jen, actually. As a result of hanging with Lee on that tour where you were on, remember Lee from Section 25, who ended up playing with us on You and Me and Rainbows. So he used to have certain expressions that he would say all the time, like, fucking hell, Kenny! And, certain type of things. And he was from Salford. And it turned out that, when I met Genesis and we were working on Puppy Gristle or something during the process at the house, he said something to me that sounded exactly like Lee. So I said, you're not from Salford, are you? And he said, Kevin, yes. And the only other person that ever said that to me was Ian Curtis. I thought it was like, wow, I never thought I could tell an accent about where it was from. I love the different dialects.
Oh, there's a story, the famous story here. Once a guy was picked up in the street by the police. He was completely out of his mind, and they didn't really want to arrest him or something. They just wanted to get him home. But they couldn't tell where he came from. So they got different language experts in, someone was trying Albanian on him, and others trying Russian, and nothing worked. And so they basically spent the night in his cell. But the next morning, when he was older, finally the penny dropped. He was from Newcastle. Accent, dialect, very, very intensive.
So, I always noticed, one time in Vancouver when I was young, when you're young and dumb, I was in a lineup in a restaurant, and I was faking an English accent. And, just for fun, right, with my friends. And someone from behind me was from the UK. And they said, "Oh, where are you from?" And I said, "Oh, I'm from Leeds." And they said, "That's funny, you don't have a Leeds accent." So I guess
Leeds?
At that time I was listening to a lot of like Gang of Four, Delta 5, Mekons, basically a lot of Leeds-based music that came up. So it's just the first thing that came to mind, really.
Leeds.
Yeah, Leeds, the Raincoats, so many good bands.
A lot of good stuff came out of that part. I like Sheffield is close to Leeds as well. I look at people happen to be Sheffield, insane, amazing city to be.
Does that be for Cabaret Voltaire was from Sheffield?
Clock PVA, Hula.
Right.
The early humanism is great. I'm so hollow. Great start, tons of it. And this great band now, it's got 65 days of static. I really love that band. Also from Sheffield, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Edward's always been the number one source. If you want to find something, or if you're interested in something, Edward will know something about an artist that you will never have heard before. And so many great albums you've introduced me to. I think the one that warped my mind most of all was Brain Ticket, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just pure fun psychedelia, but I think you showed me an album cover that was only released in Europe or something, where it actually said, "Wait, when you listen to this album, you won't be the same after."
That's it. Yeah. Your friends won't know you. Yeah, that's the one. That's got more people.
Was that a Brain Ticket album?
That's a Brain Ticket album, yeah.
So good. Warp Records.
Yeah. A sticker. He found that album.
Warp Records also based in Sheffield. Didn't know that. God, what's with that echo? You got it up loud there in your at your location?
Should I turn it down here?
Yeah, turn it down a little bit. Let's see if we get it a little bit better. Let's see if that's better. Yeah, that sounds better here, actually. Oh, yeah, that's much better, everybody, don't you think?
Oh, okay, that's great, yeah, because I'm not getting the feedback too much now as well.
Yeah.
That's way better.
So,
see, that's my useless group on technology, thinking that if I turn it up there, you'll hear it louder there, which of course is ridiculous.
You know, it was when I was a kid, they used to say, "Turn down your radio, Mom." Let's see. Questions coming in. Are there any future collaborations between Patrick Q and Edward in the works?
We've actually just started a collaboration. In fact, we've been talking about it this week, exchanging ideas. I sent Patrick a bunch of lyrics that I want him to work on, and he's going to send me some sort of like ideas across. It really felt like a good time to do it.
Man, I loved working with you and Patrick, so you guys need it. I'd love to work again.
We're here.
Yeah. You see this?
Oh, wow. That's the original, of course. That's rare. That's really rare.
This is this is your very first vinyl.
I know. I love that original cover as well. So much nicer than the reissue that happened. Because I don't know, there's just something so pure in that art, whereas Roland did that.
Look at this, how funny this is, though.
Yeah, it's hand drawn.
Look, telephone 01-597-2778 or 2776. Maybe that's where we got it.
You put the phone number on the album cover?
I guess that's how we got it then.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
What would you do that? I think that was. It just came back to me when you said that. It's like, my God, that's the phone number.
Yep.
What was I thinking?
In 1982, you could ring that number and Edward will answer.
That probably when
Let's get.
That's sort of when we thought we were absolutely doomed to obscurity. Well, we were kind of.
Man, I have to say, this album is religious experience for me. I love, whenever I speak to Edward, I always talk about what about pulling out some of these old songs and then and playing those live, like just all over again.
It's an interesting. I know a lot of people wanted to do that. I mean,
I would flip. I think I'd flip out if you went back and dragged the earliest stuff and just gave it to us. I literally.
Well, you have to do it as we do it now. You can't.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's a bit like karaoke. It's like you can't do that. That just wouldn't work.
I'm not such a lyrical guy, but like you're one lyrical singer that I know all your words. When you're singing them, I know the next line, and it's like there's very few people that I've listened to that happens to. Sometimes I hear lyrics and singing as an instrument, but with you, I feel the meaning of like the words and how it affects me. Like working on Lola's Rock on the new album, kind of scared me. I was like, damn. I mean, are you tapping into something again? The whole thing. It did kind of freak me out a little bit, and I love that. I think that's amazing. Let's see the question.
Yeah, I really do like Lola's Rock.
Oh yeah. The questions are going up there. Someone said, what was it?
I don't know. Where do you want to go? Down or up?
Is there another group that influenced the creation of Tear Garden as a concept band?
Oh, I don't think of any, really.
I think, well, for me, I mean, I was just reveling on the fact that, like, say, for instance, on Center Bullet, the first time that I ever heard you do anything on that, it was like I didn't have words for it. So.
Oh, I love doing that. I remember that like yesterday, that session.
Me too.
It was like, that was the first time I ever actually left Europe. Everything was fascinating. Going to Vancouver that first time. I never thought it would happen, And I do remember listening over and over again to the instrumental Center Bullet on the plane, on headphones. That's why I was writing the lyrics. Literally, I don't know why it refers to the French Revolution and stuff like that. But it's, I don't know why it's about that. But for some reason, that was what was. I was a little bit trained of thought. It was like literally word association almost for the Center Bullet. And I just wanted it to end up with the concept of Center Bullet. It's like, because I was fascinated by the title, Center Bullet. Like, why Center Bullet? What is this Center Bullet? And it's like, and that's where it went.
Man, I was so blown away, and I've always been so honored to work with you. For me, I thought, like, from that point on, whenever we would jam, Dwayne and I would jam, there was always a certain song that would tickle this thing where we thought, like, well, this is kind of in your tone, or kind of like we would reserve songs at that point, and it became kind of like almost a dream. If it happens again, and then all of a sudden, Tired Eyes Slowly Burning happened, and that was like just another door opening, and then was such a fun time again in the studio.
I just remember the You and Me and Rainbows is just one of the greatest times I've ever had in the studio. It's just the way it's discussed. Where's this going to? Remember, we just get together and say, well, where's it going to go now? And sort of like, going to take it into like Weird World. And then we did the sort of like, we tuned into the radio, that Billie Holiday bit sort of comes in. And then sort of like with the echoes, and no! It's like really like, it still gives me the pivots actually.
Yeah.
I can hardly listen to You and Me and Rainbows without wanting to cry. It's so emotional. that piece for me, it's one of my favourite things of all time that I've been part of. I just can't. That's something I really want to do live one day.
Yeah,
Because,
really.
But but I want to do it without crying at least, because it really, it churns me up. It's so close.
What really blows me away is how, even as you said, the Billie Holiday, that we just turned on a radio. We didn't prepare an idea and say Billie Holiday or have a lyrical hope that some voice would come in and say, "Run away from me." It's like, oh my God! It's like, how could these chance things always be so favorable? That's why I used to think that Mushroom Studios was truly haunted in a beneficial way. It had spiritual energy in it that came with it. Like, to me, that session too is easily my favorite probably session in my entire life. It's funny that Adrian Sherwood dropped by the studio just like an hour before we started that. I thought, like, what would have happened if he had hung out? I thought, like, wow, I don't know. But like the chance elements of everything there, with all the people that were around and how you utilized everybody so perfectly, and you directed it. You were saying, okay, I want this section now to be like this, and everyone would be like, oh yeah, like this, and it was such a gas. But for me, the Last Man to Fly sessions at Mushroom Studios is the best recording session I've ever partaken in. How long was that? Was that like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 2 weeks?
It was at least 2 weeks. It was probably a bit longer even. Yeah, it's just like, mate, what an incredibly magic time.
It was.
It's all being set up across the studio, playing like the Running Man.
Yeah. So, and then most of those songs were just completely improvised from the joy of playing together, just a band improvising, and it's just uncanny to me that when I listen to it back now that I think about that as improvs, but that was the magical feeling of that room and of all the people, and you were on fire, and Martine was on fire, at that time. Like, literally, I think one of my most favorite guitar players ever.
There's so much fun as well. I mean, there's a lot of fun and laughing. Remember, we all swapped instruments?
Yeah. We swapped instruments. I played bass. Martine played drums. Ryan played guitar. Yeah, no, that was that's on the album.
Yeah.
I was so terrified to make a mistake when we were recording that. I was like, okay, I've made it through. Just don't make one mistake. And we did. So it was like...
Nobody ever hears them, though. If you make a mistake, nobody thinks it's meant.
Yeah.
I'm happy for that, actually, considering how many mistakes.
And that was also the first time that we met Ryan and you guys continued on after that for an eon of great shows and great music, and I was thankful enough to join in on a few of those shows. That Mexico show, man, it's just absolutely Pink Floyd by all dimensions.
It's incredible, wasn't it? Yeah. I mean, that's still the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of in Mexico City. I think only about a third of them actually paid to get in because they sneaked through and crept between because I guess people don't actually know it's in a volcanic arena. If anybody doesn't know about it, it's like sheer black rock where the people were standing, and it wasn't like a floor. It was like a lot of. It was like a moon. It was like the moon.
It was.
At one point, somebody tried to grab me from the stage. It's like, whoa, that would be the end of me if I pulled it.
For sure. For sure, it was jagged volcanic rocks.
It was jagged volcanic rock. I mean, it wasn't anybody trying to be mean or hurt me. He just was excited by the moment.
What's awesome is the people on Patreon here can look back and see that show documented here on the series. Someone, I think it was Jorge. What was that guy's name? He got on stage and just filmed it right straight up to our faces.
Jerry.
Jerry, yeah.
Jerry. I think it was Jerry.
Yeah. Gerardo.
Gerardo. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So,
I had a great advice. Remember the first night of the margaritas?
Yeah, and that's also on there too. The party where we luckily nobody got too out of control, but it was fun, man.
I do remember people getting sick though. Actually, just before it was like, oh my god, is the show going to happen? Because everybody was like getting Monty's Human's Revenge thing, you know. Remember that?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I got it. I missed the rehearsal of a second gig that we did that was at the Mexican Art Gallery. It was a complete improv with Tuxedo Moon, but
it was super. Yeah.
It was like we showed up and there was like remnants of gear everywhere that we could set up. It wasn't a complete drum set, but partial drum set. And so we did our best and did an improv. But the funny takeaway that I have from that gig is I remember Stephen Brown being infuriated by Neil's lack of stopping his solos.
Yeah, no, I remember that.
I'd like to actually... I have it on video somewhere. I'm going to drag it out and see what it looks like these days, but I haven't listened to it in a long time. Let's see what we got here. Will distance work enable you to collaborate with new contributors or even new members? Any plans?
Well, we did on the last album.
Yeah, I mean, the last album allowed us to successfully collaborate over a distance, which worked quite well with the way that the world is these days. We each have our studio at each end, so would come up with a song by the end of the day. Edward could already be working on it in his studio in London. So that was quite amazing. I wish it wasn't this way and we could be back at Mushroom Studios and have one of these magical environments. But man, I can certainly say I'm looking forward to the next string of collaborations. And in some ways, we've actually already started.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed working on pieces on new solo albums. That's gonna be a killer album. I hear it already.
Oh man, thank you. Thank you for that. I guess people don't realize that Edward has worked with me on 2 tracks now on X-Way, and I'm just happy to say that it's straight in Edward form. So really, I guess in some ways it becomes a tear garden when we work together. But it's tracks for the solo album again coming out soon. Thank you again for that, Edward.
Oh, it's gonna be classic. I know it.
Pretty classic, I'd say. How about the Dots opening for Skinny Puppy, someone says?
Yeah, I don't know if it would work. I'm completely honest. Skinny Puppy is very much its own headspace, an own atmosphere, and the Pink Dots is very much its own headspace.
You got to own that atmosphere.
But I don't know if it will work on the same stage. Being honest there.
It's 2 different crackers. And besides that, Edward did one of the most bravest things already in his history, and that was, as a solo performer, go out and open for Skinny Puppy at our most raucous time and be subjected to people that were ignorant at that point. And you were so brave, man.
It was it's still one of the most special times of my life, I would say, because it's the first time I'd ever been on a tour like that. We've toured with the Pink Dots, but it was like let's all pile into the van, basically. This was like a nightliner. It was the first time I'd ever seen America. Which was like, to me, the unknown. And there were places where they weren't even used to skinny puppy. I remember sort of like places like Atlanta at that time. It's completely different atmosphere to Atlanta now.
For
But,
sure.
I always remember sort of like someone like there was me with like just a microphone, a tape recorder, and a keyboard. And so I was like, "Why don't you get up off your ass and play?" It's like, oh, shit, this is
No, it was hardcore. I
yeah.
remember.
I
I
don't
felt
think they love
I felt like you conquered it though, and then, the nights that was more challenging or whatever. Years later, those people realized what a doofuses they all were, or whatever, if they were rude. And then they're probably the people that come to your shows now, and they're probably some of your biggest fans.
it happens. People aren't ready, they weren't quite ready for it yet, but it stuck with them. I think a lot of people because as long as you resonate and you strike, you've got to be the canary that goes down the line, basically. And that's how the music gets. I mean, look how far the music gets these days. There could be someone actually possibly watching us right now, sitting in Vladivostok or something like that. It's quite possible in these connected times, which is beautiful. I think, to be honest. Well, I shouldn't say beautiful, actually, isn't it? It's beautiful, man. It's also beautiful. Yeah.
But I remember you wrote You and Me in Rainbows. Isn't it something to do with that tour, being on the bus and having that experience?
It's the famous Washington Monument Day.
Oh my God, yes.
It's started something.
Oh yeah, I remember that well.
That's I remember praying to the Washington Monument and thinking that sort of like at the time we couldn't get a room in any motel, and I thought it's a conspiracy. In fact, I think we all thought it was a conspiracy against us.
I remember we were sitting out front of the White House. For some reason, the whole city was full. You couldn't get a hotel room, and we're in our tour bus in front of the White House. And in those days, you could drive almost close up to it, but before you could. I think they blocked that street off now. So we were sitting there, and it just seemed likely that they could hear us, what we were saying. So all of a sudden, we all started whispering.
Yeah, I know that. I think we were pretty out of it.
We'll have to write a book and tell the full details on that story later.
Is that when you guys were
Very
classes?
interesting.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Dre's online. He said he saw that tour. Yeah. Hey, Dre.
Scully's okay.
What LP was Edward touring on that tour opening for us?
That was probably Acid China Doll.
Right.
Oh no, before Acid, probably the end of Czech China Doll.
Czech China Doll.
I did the Fall, but I didn't do the Fall on that tour. I think I ended with Loving the Flame Going on that tour.
People Productions asks, what brought about the zazziness that is Demon's 3 a.m. mix? My 5-year-old daughter can sing that one.
That's nothing to do with me, that 3 a.m. mix. That was Frank, I seem to remember did that. We were with you. The time of what? What is this? Like I got to like it after a while.
Yes, I remember. I remember the initial response is, get rid of that. And then after a while, it's like, it just grows on you.
Yeah, it grows.
It fully grows on you. What about your memories of recording Sheila Like the Rodeo, says Jacob?
Oh, I mean, the music was all there. You and Dwayne had just basically hooked up the whole track. And it just said, Edward, do something on it, I remember. So,
Yeah.
I think I wrote the lyrics right there, sort of like just while I was listening to it. I kind of got into this very dark little tale about various wives.
Man, brilliant. You did write it on the spot, from what I can recall. It was like, okay, here we go. And then you listen, you listen to a few times, and you disappear into a quiet spot. Sometimes it goes like that. I like the songs that happen that way. I remember when you disappeared one day. When we were in Mexico. We went to the pyramids, and we were all climbing the pyramids, and everyone was like, "Where's Edward?" And then someone said, "Oh, he's found himself almost like a cave, and you were sitting in there, and you had written a couple lyrics to songs coming up off the next album that we worked on."
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, that'd be probably Ascension Day. I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Could well be. So I remember that was, I found it very inspiring, that place, the pyramids.
Again, I would say, are you tapping into those spirits again, Edward?
Yeah, it gets to you, you know. I mean, basically, it is always about tuning in. You never write your own stuff, and it gets written for you by various forces.
Here's a great question. Stephen Clifton asks, if Jane is number 8, what were the preceding 7 like?
Got it.
Eric asks, how did the name Legendary Pink Dots come about?
It's a bit of an old story in a way, that. But, the first piano we had, it was actually really slightly out of tune piano, but very cool. And it had a little pink motif on the keys, and like if you sounded them all together, it made this really interesting discord.
Nice.
People talked about, you know, those legendary pink dots, and the name basically stuck.
Nice. Does that piano still exist somewhere?
Yeah, I think so. I think April's got it, actually. I think it's only got it.
Nice. I wonder if it still has the pink dots on it.
I'm pretty sure it probably does, yeah.
And how about the name The Tear Garden? How did that come about?
That came from the song called The Tear Garden. The song was there first.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds really, really interesting. It's sort of like, for me, at that time, that song really summed up the atmosphere of what we were doing. And, it really, it just seemed to fit. You know, it's very sad, strange, again, a bit of a mystical song, The Tear Garden. You know, I mean, basically it's about Berlin. You know, I was fascinated by Berlin and the atmosphere of Berlin, and just, you know, sad, tragic things that happened in that fascinating city. But placing in a different setting, it's hard to explain. It's just one of those pictures that you see in your head.
I thought it was interesting that Chris Corner had written a song about the Tear Garden with the same spelling as us, and he had known similar people and stuff, but yet he had never heard of the Tear Garden or never heard of the Pink Dots. And I was happy to introduce him. I was like, actually, yeah, no, I got a band called the Tear Garden. He's like, oh, really? And it was kind of interesting that, I don't know if you've heard his song by IMX called The Tear Garden. It's one of my favorite ones he ever did. Quite beautiful. But now to know both of you personally, and
Born on the same day.
you guys are both born on the same day. So there's this odd similarity about how I would come to meet you guys, and then you're both born on the same day again, and very creative, beautiful people. I'm just honored to get to know you people. It's just like, that's how life happens. It just happens how it happens, and that's how it is. Isn't that right, Mr. Fish? Mr. Fish always wants to come and say hi to you.
Fisherman, look into the camera.
He's a big fella. You got a dog there, Edward?
No animals here.
No animals?
Nah, a bit sad really. But when we go away so often, and you know, it'd be a bit hard to have someone here all the time to look after.
For sure. Let's see here. Is Silverman a grumpy person?
a glowy person, like glow spotting or.
I don't find him grumpy. I just find him very devoted. Yeah.
Devoted, eh?
Devoted.
Devoted. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
What would we do?
He's intensely playing, so he looks intense, you know? Yeah, someone says Phil's super nice and down to earth. I agree. Ryan Lampton, how was the European leg of the Angel in the Details tour?
Oh, intense. I mean, yeah, I really liked it. It was a strange tour at a certain point because we actually arranged a tour where we played 22 shows in 23 days. It's the most intense tour that I've ever had. You know, just really, at a certain point, you really like, you can hardly move because you're so tired. Then you realise, but damn, there's still 10 more shows to go. And like, no break. And added to that, there was like the news of the virus. Like, we were in Milan. I was in the dressing room in Milan, sort of like with my iPad alone, and I'm reading about the first ever cases of the virus just a few miles away in, I think it was Pomona, somewhere like that. It's just like, wow. And I'm feeling very uneasy about this. So we were chatting with Eric, and sort of like Eric was trying to calm me down, saying, look, you know, the chances of you contracting anything like, you know, that virus was almost zero. You know, he really helped me because I was beginning to get quite anxious, you know, developing quite an anxiety about it. But it seemed to be following us around. Like, for instance, we played in Cologne, and we didn't have a hotel that night, so we had to book our own hotel. And for some reason, I'd gone for a place called Linnich, which was like one village away from where the first case of the virus was in Germany. And it's like, it's a small place. It's not a city or something. It's like a really small place. And now that is the epicenter of where the virus is in Germany. Crazy. And like, so, yeah, when we got back, I was like counting, you know, like, okay, a week since that show, So, and you know, it's just like, oh, thank God, and I'm now 3 weeks since I was on the tour, and I'm still feeling kind of okay.
Man, that's so good to hear. And yeah, it was kind of like you guys did a tour of the epicenters.
It's a really strange feeling. I mean, we're lucky to have finished that sort of tour, considering what happened since. It's really sad. Fans feel like, you know, had everything planned to go out and do like that.
These questions are going so fast. I was like trying to just say, pan up there. I missed this up here.
There you go.
Yeah, Ryan says Eric killed it on guitar when you guys were over in North America. Yeah, those were some great shows over here, Edward.
He's on fire.
Yeah.
But seeing so like really just amazing.
Yeah, you guys. Every time I see you, I love how it changes slightly, and you can never expect what songs you do or how you will do them.
Yeah, that's in a way. You know, it's why we play live. We want the songs to live and to grow and to ultimately plate into something else. And like we're still not done with them yet, because this is one of my favourite sets right now. And I still think we're not done with them yet. It's still got places to go, which is interesting to me.
Kevin Kofer mentions Orbit Service, really enjoying Orbit Service. And he's become such an element of when you tour. I almost expect to now hear Orbit Service, and I've really been enjoying his stuff lately. Is there any
family? You know,
yeah, family. Is there any collab between you and Randall in the works?
Oh yeah, we've talked about it. We just got to get it going, basically, because we did a start too far together, and we really enjoyed that. And then, you know, we want to keep it going.
Does Edward have any more surprise tracks that you and Dwayne sent him years ago, like Chow Mein? Chow mein is damn special. The first time I heard it, I was like, "What are you singing about now?" And it was like, I love it. I just love that how you just were you eating chow mein?
Um, no, I don't think I was actually, but it's probably my favourite Chinese dish.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes Edward will just be. I'll have sent him something. One time I sent him a song, and then like 30 years later, he sent it back to me, and it had. I think it's chow mein. Yeah, it's always fun to hear these things, especially when they've had like that long to sit on the shelf, and you realize that's impossible. You could never write an idea and then 30 years later come back and collaborate on it and have the same result. It just wouldn't ever sound the same.
Sometimes they need that time.
Yeah.
They need to bubble a little bit.
Is there a story behind the titling of The Last Man to Fly?
Oh, I think it just was the title that came from the atmosphere of the whole album, because it was like I always think about Icarus on the top of this ledge about all these wax wings about to take off, and it's just like, what's in his head? For some reason, that album reminds me of a man about to fly and to be able to actually do it without having any tune to guide him.
It definitely had the energy in the room to fly. Let's see here. What is the story behind the number that shall not be said?
I used to live in this house. I didn't really like it. I don't have the greatest memories of the place. And so, I always felt this number was a curse until it turned from a curse into a complete obsession. I just will not say the number, will not write the number. I will not even acknowledge its existence apart from in its absence.
I love it, man. I love it. I always hear stories. Every time I'm with Edward, I'll hear a story that I have yet to hear, and man, that's just one of them for the day. Thank you very much for asking that question. Which ferry boat was sung about in Deja Vu? Wasn't that the one off going between Britain and France in the day? And
No. It's a mythical ferry boat in Deja Vu. It's basically a ferry that just like a ghost ferry, really, a ferry boat that never did arrive. Yeah.
My son used to call You and Me and Rainbows the Bohemian Rhapsody of industrial music.
Wow.
Thank you, God's Gift Maggot.
That's high praise. I love Bohemian Rhapsody, I must say.
That's funny. How many songs has Edward written during this live stream?
None. None. No, I've had him on all this.
Is that where you work, right back there behind you, where you're sitting?
Yeah, sure. You want to see how rough my studio looks?
Yeah, let's see.
Oh,
look at that.
Look at that.
Beautiful.
What a mess. What a mess.
I love it.
So, yeah, the panoramic view. But, yeah, it's kind of small.
Oh, beautiful. I like that sound. Hey, I always noticed that you and Phil were probably the best, most devoted record collectors I've ever met. And you guys have scoured every record store in the world, probably. You guys have probably found every rare record that has ever existed. Except for in Japan, because you haven't been there yet. But when you go there, I expect that those shops will lose all their valuable assets.
I doubt it, because you've got to actually have had the money to be able to acquire those valuable assets.
True.
I think going to Japan and being in a record store there would be just like the ultimate tease in a way. I'm actually, I don't collect, I'm not the collector that I used to be. I'm actually happy to have the music these days often. Even to be honest, even as a download or something like that, I can get into that. I often make a CD of it and a little cover and play it. So, but yeah, it's a space, it's a little house, basically.
But do you miss the days of the search?
Yeah, I won't deny that. They were fun. I mean, in these days of eBay and so on, it's not really the same.
It's not as challenging, is it?
Yeah, it's. A friend of mine who lives in Swiss or lives close to the Swiss border, somehow he always manages to find the most insane records on flea markets in Switzerland. I don't know how he does it. It's like, whenever I see him, he's always like, you know what I found? It's like, what? No! How did you find that? So it's like, Mark is his name. He actually did the 25th anniversary single thing, Mark is just someone who finds gems wherever he goes. And they just drop into his. Some people have that. Our friend Frank in Holland, he's like that. Just wherever he goes, he just finds something insanely rare. It's just like some people just have this kind of
knack, yeah.
Yeah, well, sort of like an angel saying, go there.
Yeah, right.
It's like, whoa. Yeah.
Is there any holy grails still left for you to find?
Not really. The holy grail for me was actually a CD collection. It's the Vanity, the Vanity label from Japan.
No, what did you teach us?
Yeah, I'll show you.
Oh yeah, this is good. We love show and tell here.
It was a legendary label from Japan. This is it.
Oh, look at that.
Basically, it was recently reissued. All the original albums, they're original covers.
And what is the artist though?
They're different artists. It was a label. People wanted these albums for many, many years, including me. I actually had a couple of the originals, but I never got them all. And it's just classic Japanese, minimal, experimental, extremely unusual synthesized bands and artists. And it's a holy grail.
Wow.
And finally, after 40 years, they finally came out on CD. It's just like, thank you, God. So I really love these people.
Congratulations. Let's see. There's so many questions that are not related here. Hold on. Is Edward a fan of Sun Ra?
Oh, yes. Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite album of Sun Ra's?
I like the smaller, when we do the smaller group, in a way, like this one called Nidhamu that I really, really love. Or Disco 3000 I really love. It's like the start of the 80s. He was doing some insanely good stuff. I mean, his entire catalogue is just absolutely running right with insane thing, and it'll be so obscure as well. Like so much of it, but wow, what an artist.
Did you get a chance to ever see him live?
No.
Oh man, I wish I could have seen Sun Ra. Ryan saw it Sun Ra and even was like chatting with them all after when they played in Vancouver in the early '80s.
Ryan got to see the orchestra with Sun Ra.
And with June Tyson as well.
Oh, that's insane.
He chatted with her, and he was chatting with the drummer guy, and oh man, he was. And he was telling me about it back then when I first met him. And, it wasn't resonating yet because I hadn't had my experience yet. I thought, like, well, maybe that's outside of my realm, but no, I just had to get the experience. And for me, it was the film that opened my mind to it first when I actually got adapted the headspace, and then that came with when you would listen to any of the albums.
Yeah, I love some rock music. It's something I always return to again and again.
So did I miss your favorite? What did you say your favorite was? Disco 3000?
But I think probably Disco 3000 might be my favorite. Yeah,
It's your go-to.
Hard to name it and name one, but that's really, really right up there, I would say.
I posted my favorite earlier on Patreon for people: Sleeping Beauty, the Sleeping Beauty EP, and then Languidity.
Oh, Languidity's great.
I just love the tones on that record. Who is Gershwin from So Gallantly Screaming?
Well, it basically is George Gershwin. It's a really reference. I mean, the funny thing is that sort of like a little bit at the end isn't Gershwin. That's about a little shot apart. But yeah. So it's a reference to America when it's like a much more innocent, or seemingly more innocent place. It probably wasn't innocent at all, but you get a picture of sort of like a kind of innocence. Yeah, and then to me that the music of Gershwin and Cole Porter and all these kind of guys represents like a completely different America that, just isn't there anymore, really.
I always remember the first time that me and you drove down to Seattle to do a show on your first trip in 1986. And we played a small bar in Seattle. But the main thing that I remember mostly was it was your first adventure into the United States. And I remember that crossing the border, as soon as we crossed the border, you actually told me that you became a little frightened. And you were a little bit intimidated by that experience. How did it appear to you in those days? What did it appear to be terrifying?
Well, America was a place basically you heard about on the news. The popular myth was you cannot walk on the streets in Hollywood because you will be mugged, for instance. You cannot walk in New York because you will be mugged. And sort of like there are people with knives, and people with guns. It's terrifying, it's scary. And that's what, basically that was what you were fed all the time in Europe. And so I was actually a bit nervous in Vancouver, and I couldn't believe it when I got there. It's like cars are stopping me to cross the street and stuff like what?
That's a Vancouver trademark.
Yeah. I mean, just bizarre. And, it was completely not like what I was expecting at all. In fact, I love going to America.
Yeah.
I've got so many American friends. I could never call myself anti-American. I'm not. I think it's an amazing place. I'm just a bit sad but then again, I'm a bit sad about the way it goes, like with the politics here too. It's just like I just want to kind the world, basically.
Right. Yeah. No. It was a ripe experience and also ripe times back then, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, something had just happened. Was there some particular event that had happened that we were both a little bit intimidated by? I can't remember if it was Bush or something just got reelected, or I can't remember what it was.
Reagan was there at that time, because that was the lead up to, it was 86, wasn't it? Oh, it was probably after Chernobyl, actually.
Yeah. I remember there was an event that we were intimidated by. Have your recent collaborations between done files? Yes, file swapping. Yeah, that's how we've not had the pleasure to spend any time in the studio, and then miraculously, Patrick and Edward were able to be in LA for the record release party that we were all able to enjoy together. Patrick had an excellent time.
Patrick had a very good time.
Indeed.
How is Patrick doing since he's in Italy? He's not in the epicenter over there, is he?
No. I chatted to him a couple of days ago. He's living quite far away from any cities, and so it's about halfway down Italy. So happily away from the really what we call the red zone.
Are you still in touch with Benny of Origami Galactica? If so, how's he doing?
Oh, we message each other. Sort of like Raymond's actually working on a whole album that Benny's made right now. He was telling me it's a fascinating sounding record, I have to say. Like with a lot of overtone to it, and Ray is basically mixing it.
Really?
Yeah.
New info by the minute. Okay, everyone's asking how many brownies did Patrick eat?
Oh, he had like.
I think it was like a quarter of like a little mouse.
It was the
Mouse.
Remember, you saying to him, even I wouldn't eat one of those. Be careful.
He ate like a quarter size.
So if it was this big, he maybe ate like
It wasn't much. Yeah.
a little tidbit.
A corner.
We felt so bad.
Probably powerful stuff.
A quarter of a brownie. Easy.
I know, I was so saddened. So what's next on the table for you guys? What's the very next thing?
Oh, just in a way, got a new Pink Dots album well underway. Like a new Chemical Play School, thankfully. It's hopefully bearing fruit fairly soon. There's a couple of reissues just come out. Final Creed has a double CD just been reissued, so that's really interesting. Sounds great now. It's always like a ton of stuff, like sort of bubbling away in little pots all over the place, and suddenly it kind of like gushes forth.
Do you have any favorite new bands?
Well, to say 65 Days of Static is definitely a band. They're not exactly new. They've only been out for the last 20 years, but I only discovered them recently, and I just love it. It's
I'm sorry,
great.
who did you say? 65 what?
Days of Static.
65 Days of Static.
Yeah, it's really good. It's hard to describe it. Definitely got a real adventurous edge to it. There's a guy I discovered him through the wire over there, Chino Amobi, I really like. Been listening a lot to him. A guy from Baltimore. There's another guy. He's like, I think he kind of like came out a little bit out of hip hop. That kind of scene, but he's like a lot of the hip hop has been traced into sound collage now. It's amazing.
And what's his name again?
Another guy called Klein I've been listening to from South London. Great stuff. Really great stuff.
What was the name
Klein.
before that? The hip hop one?
Chino Amobi.
Gino Amobi.
Chino, like China.
Chino, yeah.
Amobi. Really, there's an album called Paradiso. It's just fantastic. Absolutely blows me away.
Any plans to reissue The Tower on vinyl?
Yes, absolutely. It's kind of primed and ready to go almost. But it'll take a while because in a way I'm working a little bit on the bonus material. There's some unheard bonus material for The Tower. But it's definitely going to happen, yeah.
Is there tracks that still are outtakes from that you are unreleased?
More like draft versions of tracks.
Nice.
The Tower and Faces in the Fire quite a lot was discovered for both of those. and Island of Jewels as well. We discovered a whole bunch of unheard material that's going through old cassettes, and I thought, oh, this is exciting.
Another question here. Anthony Jackson, isn't that Anthony, the guy that
Did the cover?
that does the covers, acoustic covers? Hi, Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony. Yeah, absolutely. Is Anthony there?
Yeah, Anthony asks, hi there, Edward. How did you meet Phil?
That's interesting. I was at college, and I had a really good friend at college called Tony Springer. We're friends on Facebook now. We both had shared a love for Vandergraaf Generator.
Oh, nice.
You know, I love Vandergraaf Generator and Peter Hamill still, you know, like godlike. And Tony said, oh, you should meet my friend Phil. He's also into a lot of good music, and basically we got together to have music listening sessions. And we just swapped like our favourites, lend your ear for this one or that one, and we both had, we all had similar tastes in music, and we were really young, it's like, but yeah, we got to hear things, like new things that we never heard before, and just swap our experiences with it.
I also posted this here on Patreon, but I'll never forget the night that you and Phil in your squad in Amsterdam compiled a cassette for me out of all of your favorites at that time, including Vandergraaf Generator. And I still have it. It's such a great cassette. It's so varied and so vibrantly ripe of direction and ideas. Man, what a discovery, though, to be played that while you're in a building in Amsterdam, in the Centrum, that you guys just basically had. It was like right across from the police station, too.
Yeah.
That was such a magical place.
I got in trouble, I remember once, with the location, because I actually had a show, like an opening show at Paradiso, and it's a solo show, so I could actually take the tram to the Paradiso from right outside where I live. But it was at this time I was doing a pool where I smashed the brick to pieces at the end with a hammer, and I didn't have a brick, and there was a building site going on right outside my house, like where I live. So I sort of got a brick out, and suddenly I heard, from the other side of the street, it was the police witnessing me stealing this brick.
Classic.
But I kind of left it there and found a slab of concrete outside the venue.
I remember the brick. I remember sometimes you were always performing with bare feet, and I would worry about you when you walk off the stage with the crumbs of the brick.
Yeah, that's right.
You could step on the crumbs. Another question from Anthony. Did you write Palm Sunday on Palm Sunday?
Oh, I have no idea, actually.
Did you know today's Palm Sunday?
Today's Palm Sunday, indeed. But I might have done.
Edward, did you ever have any contact with the guys in Coil?
No. I met John Lawrence once. That was all many years ago. I only really briefly.
Any chance of something similar to 40 Angels coming out again?
Wow, that's like drawing blood, isn't it? It's like 4 hours. It's like, yeah, there's always a charm, of course, because so 40 Angels is probably one of the things that I'm the most proud of since we're making music. But it's a lot of work. It's like I really took it on myself, and now it's a DVD, like an audio DVD of it, because it's 4 hours long. I had to put all the music on the DVD rather than CDs because it just be too many. And I'm making them one by one, but of course I can't send them until this virus thing is gone, unfortunately. It's like
Is that the only way you can get them? Is you have to make them by hand?
I have to make them by hand, yeah.
Nice. I now know what's on my Christmas list, Edward.
Oh, so I'll give you a 40 inches. No problem.
Yeah, that sounds delicious. So obviously we're getting the question all over the place. When's the Tiergarten going to tour?
Yeah. Well, next year.
Yeah, I say my thought is like when this whole thing is over and we get a space open, then I see a period coming.
Let's do it. I mean, it's like, the Docs were completed their 40th anniversary tour, and we will probably take a little hiatus from touring for probably a year. So it's like, it would be the time, wouldn't it, really?
Would be a treat. We could just happen to gather it all. Will there ever be a Edward KaSpel solo tour again?
No, I'm not sure. Maybe the odd show here and there. But if I do, I would want to do like something completely new. Just something really, maybe something I'll do once and never repeat.
Right. Well, that sounds like a good plan. Edward, thank you so much for tuning in with me today. This has been a treat.
Yeah, me too, Kevin.
I hope I'm not holding you up too late there. I know it's 10:30. I got to get you to bed.
Yeah. I should have worked still. I think Alice needs to go to bed now. She's probably in the other room before she goes upstairs.
Big hugs to everybody there in the residence, the KaSpel world. And also hello from Rihanna.
Hi.
Thank you, Rihanna, for everybody, and thank you everybody on Patreon for tuning in today. And the support that you've given again is always unbelievable. And we'll keep you posted on future events with us. And thank you for supporting the Tiergarten and everything. Thanks, Edward.
Cheers, Kevin.
Stay there, Edward. I'm just going to sign off here. Thanks, guys.